I was truly convinced I had found the perfect shortcut. A complex component, just scan it, export in STL, and print. No tedious CAD, no hours of reverse engineering. This was exactly my expectation going into 3D scanning. And that's exactly why this video ended up being completely different from what I originally planned. Today, we are looking at the 3DMakerPro Moose, a scanner for around $429, and I'm going to show you why it is technically very good, yet still won't do what many 3D printing enthusiasts hope it will. Before we dive into the details, let's set the stage. I come from the world of 3D printing. I build and optimize, but 3D scanning is new territory for me. I'm clearly a beginner here, so that's why this isn't just a pure review, but a field report. I was looking for a system that works reliably. Software that doesn't get in the way. A workflow you learn once and can then actually use. A standalone device would have been perfect, of course. Turn it on and go without a laptop, but realistically, those are in a completely different price league. I was almost ready to give up until I got a recommendation from Mpox. I thought, if I'm going to look at one more scanner, it will be this one. I asked Geekbuying if I could test this device and they provided it to me. Transparency is important to me, so for $429 I would probably have bought myself anyway. In the back of my mind there was always this thought, maybe this saves me from clean CAD modeling. Maybe I just scan a complex part, tweak it just in some minimal areas and then been done. That was the starting expectation. And this is exactly the expectation I had to set straight over the course of this test. Let's take a look at the 3DMakerPro Moose. I have the standard version here. In the box you will find the scanner itself, the USB-Y cable for data and power, and the matching power supply. That's basically all you need to get started. The premium version includes additional accessories like a tripod and a turntable attachment. Based on my experience with similar bundles from other manufacturers, I'm usually a bit hesitant regarding such accessories. Often they are functional, but the quality isn't on par with the device itself. I can't judge it, especially here, since I only had the standard version, but generally I recommend buying a tripod and a turntable separately or using existing camera equipment. A solid photography tripod simply offers more stability. As for the turntable, the most important thing is adjustable speed. Many simple models like mine here might rotate too fast. This makes tracking harder and the scan unnecessarily complicated. Adjustable speed ensures much more precise work. The scanner itself makes a very high quality impression. The metal housing feels sturdy and well finished, nothing feels cheap. In this price range, that's not a given one. The USB-C port is neatly recessed into the housing, which makes much more sense than a protruding socket. It comes with an angled cable that fits well and reduces strain on the port. And a small detail I like, the cable has a small grip area so you can pull it out cleanly. On the bottom, there's a standard tripod thread. It works perfectly fine. What I would have liked to see is another thread on the short side of the device. Especially with taller objects or certain angles, it would be much easier to mount the scanner vertically. Let's take a quick look at the specs. The stated accuracy is 0.03 millimeters. That sounds extremely precise, and on paper, it is a very good value, but you have to distinguish what this number actually means. This 0.03 millimeters describes the possible measurement accuracy under optimal conditions, meaning ideal distance, perfect surface, stable tracking, and good alignment. In practice, several factors come into play. Tracking tolerances, surface texture, alignment of multiple scans, mesh smoothing, automatic repair processes, and lastly, post-processing in the software. It all adds up. This means you can capture very fine details, but it doesn't mean a bearing seat with a 10mm diameter will actually end up as exactly 10mm in the STL. Tracking is visual, meaning marker points aren't strictly necessary. The scanner orientates itself based on geometric features and, depending on the mode, color contrasts on the surface. It recognizes differences in geometry or textures or uses them as a reference point in space. This sounds obvious, but in practice it's often the sticking point. If an object is too uniform, too smooth, or too reflective, the system quickly loses its orientation. And many scanners in this price range are quite sensitive here and require markers or surface preparation fairly extensive. That's why this was one of the most positive points in my test. The moose's visual tracking was significantly more stable than I expected. We'll see how it handles different objects in the practical examples later on in this video. Let's talk about the software JM Studio. Even the best scanner is useless without functional software. And to be honest, I was a bit skeptical here. Many companies can do hardware quite well, but software is often where things fall apart. JM Studio is free and available for Windows and macOS, so installation is straightforward, the scanner is usually recognized immediately, and the performance was absolutely stable in my test. Even larger point clouds were calculated without crashing. Technically, it works reliably. In the start menu, you have a quick guide showing the most important features and procedures. The workflow itself is logically structured. Essentially, it consists of 3 steps: scan, align, and process. There's a handheld mode and a turntable mode. For the turntable, you first need to perform an initialization. Important, the object must not be on the turntable at this point, only the empty turntable should be visible, so the software can capture the background and remove it automatically later. Once you understood that, the process is very intuitive. What really surprised me was the tracking, especially with the uniform surface or slightly reflective materials. The moose provided the most stable visual tracking I've personally seen in this class. In many cases, no scanning spray was needed, and I didn't need marker points at all during my tests. I also like the visual feedback within the software. On the left side of the 3D viewer, there's a distance indicator showing the optimal working range. The software clearly shows if you are too close or too far from the object. If the top area turns red, you're too close. If the bottom turns red, you're too far. Ideally, you want to stay in the middle area marked as excellent. You also get direct status messages like lost tracking or out of sight. Brightness can also be adjusted via a slider. If the image is too dark, details are lost. If it's overexposed, you get scattering or artifacts. So the software visually indicates whether the exposure is too low, too high, or optimal. Merging multiple individual scans also works reliably. The automatic alignment was stable and reproducible. Just make sure to clean up faulty point clouds from individual scans first. Remove artifacts directly in the respective scan before combining them. It saves you a lot of work later. After scanning, JM Studio offers automatic processes: cleaning point clouds, repairing the mesh, and simplifying it. For beginners, the automatic mode makes just total sense. It's also important to note JM Studio is not a CAD software. It is designed to create clean meshes, not to modify precise engineering designs. For anything beyond that, you just export the model as an STL, OBJ, or PLY and continue working in other softwares. As a bottom line, the software works well technically, the user interface feels a bit unpolished, but the actual result, which means the final model, is convincing. So let's see how it handles real objects. Before we start, a quick note on the recording. Please excuse the occasional drop in the video quality. Unfortunately, I couldn't scan and record my screen at the same time on my work laptop. The system just wasn't too powerful enough. So I filmed some sequences separately. The performance was sufficient for scanning, but simultaneously recording pushed the PC to its absolute limits. So yeah, sorry for that. Now for a test. I choose different objects from an easy start to real edge cases. First up, a plaster figure. Hardly any hard edges, lots of soft transitions, ideal for getting a feel for the system. Many manufacturers include a bust because it gives you a quick sense of achievement. That's not the case with the moose, so I picked a suitable object myself. Before starting, you have to choose the SLAM mode, which means simultaneous localization and mapping, either texture or geometry. This determines what the scanner uses for tracking. In geometry mode, it primarily uses shapes, like edges or recesses. In texture mode, it also uses colors, patterns, and contrasts. With the plaster figure, tracking was stable even in the texture mode. Details were captured cleanly, and the soft transitions looked right in the mesh. I used the turntable mode here, so in handheld mode, you have to remove your own hand from the point cloud later, and I'm still lacking some routine here. The turntable allowed a way more controlled work. You quickly realize that the moose's field of view is relatively compact. Large objects can rarely be captured in one pass. Especially with taller figures, multiple scans are necessary to cover all areas. With some experience, you can slightly tilt the mouse upwards while scanning to cover more surface. However, if you move too fast or jerky, you lose just tracking. So it's better to work calmly or perform several clean individual scans rather than trying to force everything in one go. This is also where I noticed that I would have liked to mount the mouse vertically for taller objects. An extra thread on the short side would have been very helpful. So as it stands, you need a tiltable tripod or a flexible holder. However, it seems that horizontal orientation is fixed in turntable mode and vertical in handheld mode. Changing the scan direction doesn't seem to be intended here. The second object was a box. Clearer edges, simple geometry. Tracking was stable here too, but the box was again too large to capture entirely in one go. One particularly positive note, the software closed small gaps very plausibly, so if minimal areas weren't fully captured, the automatic mesh repair filled them in. With other manufacturers, you often get artifacts or surfaces that don't really fit the model. Here, the correction effort was much lower. The third object was a colored helicopter. A good example for an object with many visual details and clear color contrasts. Tracking was very stable here as well. The color capture worked cleanly, textures were reliably recognized and correctly mapped onto the mesh. Visually, the scan looked very convincing. However, I did make a mistake here. To get better coverage, I scanned the object in different orientations. In doing so, I unconsciously moved the rotor slightly. It was in a slightly different positions relative to the chassis in each scan. So when merging the scans later, this became obvious. The rotor no longer fit the rest of the structure geometrically because its position varied between the scans. Moving parts must be fixed or scanned separately, otherwise you get inconsistent during alignment, as you can see here. Furthermore, the first functional limit of 3D scanning becomes apparent. Even if you scan the object perfectly and print it again, it won't have the same properties as the original. In the helicopter, the rotor rotates via an internal mechanism. This mechanism is not visible from the outside and therefore cannot be captured. I think the texture quality itself is good and perfectly sufficient for my purpose. However, I don't have specific use case for processing colored models. For visualization or digital assets, this might be relevant for you, whether the quality is enough dependent on specific standards. Then came the first real stress test, a stepper motor. Metallic, partially reflective surface combined with relatively uniform geometry. Exactly the kind of object that gives many scanners big trouble. Reflective surfaces are critical because the projected pattern isn't reflected back in clean, diffuse way, but instead scatters or in glares. Instead of clear depth information, you get imprecise signals. The scanner doesn't see the surface clearly. With the mouse, tracking remained surprisingly stable anyway. Even without markers, the motor was captured cleanly. To further improve the result, I used scanning spray, specifically a self-vanishing spray from RevoPoint. This leaves a matte layer on the surface that disappears on its own after a few hours. This eliminates the tedious cleaning process required with classic chalk sprays, and compared to other 3D scanners, this was a significant difference. Then I wanted to see where it truly hits its limits. I scanned a black, smooth cylinder. No edges, no structure, no clear reference points. From a scanner's perspective, this is just a worst case scenario. And here you see the limit. In the live model, you could see the object jumping back and forth in space, even in geometry mode. The tracking simply didn't have enough reference points. This isn't a specific problem with the mouse. It's a fundamental issue with visual tracking on such objects. The solution is relatively simple. You have to create artificial references, either via marker points or a structured turntable plate. You can paint one yourself or, as I did, use a self-printed plate with a pattern. Additionally, I lightly matted the shiny filament with scanning spray to reduce reflection. As soon as there was enough visual reference and the surface was no longer reflective, this object could be scanned cleanly as well. So finally, the real world test. I originally wanted to use the scanner to bypass my CAD skills a bit. So I took a stealth burner cover, a functional component with mounts, smaller notches, channels, and precise areas. At first glance, everything went well. Due to its striking shape, the cover was easy to scan. Tracking was stable, and the outer shape was captured cleanly, and the model just looked really convincing in the 3D viewer. Visually, you could say, hey, perfect, it works. But that is exactly where the difference lies between looking good and being technically usable. The scanner only captures what it can see, which bin surfaces. Deep channels, internal structures, or hidden areas remain invisible. And even with visible functional surfaces, like bearing seats or precise fits in the 1/10 of a millimeter range, the geometric accuracy isn't enough to use them directly as a functional part. The model looks right from the outside, but functionally it's just a shell. This was the point where I had to finally correct my original expectation. A 3D scanner can capture geometry, but it does not replace constructive thinking or clean CAD when it comes to precise functional components. Summing it all up, I have to say one thing above all. My original expectation was simply wrong. Not because the mousse is bad, but because I miscategorized the tool. The 3DMakerPro mousse is technically very strong. Tracking is stable, and even on uniform surfaces, it's better than anything I've seen in this price range so far. Reflective areas could mostly be captured without much effort. Spray was only needed selectively, and I didn't need marker points in my test. The software closes small gaps cleanly and merging multiple scans reliably. It can capture surface color along with geometry. For around $429, this is a clear recommendation for me, and actually the only one I can give after testing many 3D scanners. And yet, this will likely be the end of my personal 3D scanning journey. I just realized this 3D scanning is its own tool with clear strength and clear limits. The mousse shows very well how powerful this tool can be if you categorize it correctly. For shapes, reference geometries, creative projects, or surfaces, it's really a strong system. For the way I work, however, CAD remains the crucial component. Not because the mousse disappoints me, quite the opposite, but because my specific use case isn't fully covered by it. For high-end precision functional parts with tight tolerances, there is no alternative to CAD. Internal structures, channels, or bearing seats in the sub-millimeter range cannot simply be scanned away. So, who is this 3D scanner really for? It's for hobbyist area where it's about shapes, not hundreds of millimeters. For figures, for cosplay, for props, for model making or creative projects. But also practically for scanning surfaces to print adapters, design brackets, or create negative molds like for a test bench. Texture scanning is also interesting for applications like visualization, animation, or game assets. Personally, I don't have a specific use case for that, which why this feature doesn't play a big role in this workflow here, but for me, it was still an exciting experience. And perhaps that was the most important realization. Not every good tool is automatically the right tool for your own workflow. If you use 3D scanners yourself or started with similar expectations, feel free to share that in the comments. I'm really interested to hear about your journey and how you got along. And if you like this honest practical test, feel free to check out our other reviews on the channel, for example, LH Stinger or my current favorite in the Core XY MMU space, the Crydteam K2 Pro. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.